that billionaire in old clothes, a waitress with nothing to gain, and the woman who missed kindness for weakness. Darius Whitmore learned a long time ago that people were kinder to a name than they were to a person. Not a face, not a voice, not the man underneath the suit. A name. Whitmore. People softened around it. They stood straighter around it. They laughed at jokes that were not funny and forgave silences that would have seemed rude from anybody else. They called him brilliant when he was only tired. They called him humble when he simply had no patience left for performance. And when he walked into a room wearing a black Tom Ford suit, a Patek Philippe on his wrist, and the quiet exhaustion of a man who had signed more contracts before breakfast than most people saw in a year, they did not ask whether he was good. They asked how close they could stand. That was why, on the wettest Thursday night Atlanta had seen all spring, Darius sat in the back of a black Maybach outside a restaurant in Buckhead, wearing a faded grey hoodie, old jeans, and work boots with mud still dried into the seams. His driver kept both hands on the wheel as if the car might explode if he breathed wrong. His assistant, Malcolm Price, sat in the passenger seat, turned halfway around, looking like a man watching a friend climb over a bridge railing for no reason. "Sir," Malcolm said carefully, "I'm going to ask one more time and then I will respect your decision even though it is deeply foolish. Are you sure you want to do this?" Darius looked down at his hands. No cuff links, no watch worth a townhouse, no polished shoes, just hands. "My grandmother wanted me to meet her," he said. "Your grandmother wanted you to meet Ms. Vanessa Monroe as yourself, not as a handyman who lost a fight with a parking garage." Darius almost smiled. "If Vanessa Monroe is interested in me, she will survive one dinner with a man in a hoodie. And if she is not, then my grandmother will owe me one peaceful Thanksgiving." Malcolm sighed through his nose. Rain ran down the tinted window in silver lines. Across the street, Belle Argent glowed like a promise meant for other people. Tall windows, white tablecloths, valet boys in raincoats jogging from Porsche to Bentley to Range Rover. Women stepped out with their hair wrapped in silk scarves, one hand protecting handbags that cost more than Darius's first apartment. Darius watched the doors. Something in him felt childish, not playful, not free. Childish in the old wounded way, like the boy who had once stood in a school hallway with a scholarship letter in his pocket, while another boy laughed at his shoes. He had more money now than that boy's father could have imagined. But shoes, he had learned, were never just shoes. "Monroe's firm is still under consideration for the Whitmore Global account," Malcolm said. "That makes tonight messy." "I know. She does not know you are the final decision maker. She knows enough. She knows a man is coming to meet her. That should be enough to act like a decent human being." Malcolm did not answer. That was his gift. He knew when silence had more authority than advice. Darius opened the door before anyone could do it for him. Rain needled his face. He stepped out into Buckhead traffic, pulled the hood over his head, and walked toward the restaurant as the valet looked him up and down and forgot how to smile. There were 3 questions Darius wanted answered that night. Would Vanessa Monroe see a man without a label? Would she speak to him with basic respect? And if she failed, why had his grandmother insisted, with that worried crease between her eyebrows, that Darius needed to meet this woman before the board vote? He did not know it yet, but none of those questions would matter by morning. By morning, there would be another woman holding out a paper cup of coffee with both hands, and before the month was over, one of them would lose everything she had built on lies. The hostess did not say the quiet part out loud. She did not have to. Her eyes said it for her. "This is not your place." Darius stood dripping slightly on the polished marble floor while she looked at his hoodie, his boots, his hair damp at the edges. Her smile tightened into something trained and thin. "Reservation, Monroe, party of 2. Her fingers paused over the tablet. "Miss Monroe is already seated." Of course she was. Vanessa Monroe did not arrive after anyone. Her time, according to every profile Darius had read, was too expensive for that. She was a senior strategy director at Meridian Vale, a rising marketing agency with a reputation for making mid-sized brands look more expensive than they were. Her pitch for Whitmore Global's new community investment campaign had made it to the final shortlist. The work was sharp, cold, but sharp. Darius had admired the deck. He had wondered about the person behind it. The hostess led him through the dining room. Conversation softened as he passed, then resumed behind him. A man in a navy blazer glanced at Darius's boots and whispered something to his date. She covered her mouth with 2 fingers and laughed. Darius kept walking. Vanessa sat by the window, under a gold lamp that made the diamonds at her throat look warm. She wore a cream dress that had never met bad lighting, and her blonde hair fell in smooth waves over one shoulder. Her red nails rested beside a glass of sparkling water. Everything about her looked edited. Her face changed when she saw him, only for half a second. A flicker, confusion first, then offense. Not disappointment, offense, as if the room itself had insulted her by allowing him inside. Darius stopped at the table. Vanessa Monroe. She looked past him toward the hostess. Is this a joke? The hostess froze. Darius lowered his hood. I'm Darius. Vanessa blinked once, then she laughed. Not loudly, that would have been vulgar. Vanessa did not do vulgar in public. She did precise cruelty, polished enough to pass as taste. You're Darius Whitmore? Darius, he said, yes. She leaned back as if distance might improve him. Your grandmother told my aunt you were private. She did not say you were unemployed. The hostess turned away too fast. Darius sat down. I'm employed. Doing what? Operations for whom? A company down. Her eyes moved over him again. Hoodie, jeans, boots, no expensive tells. No ring, no watch, no signal she could monetize. She picked up her glass. I see. Do you? That made her look at him properly. He could see the calculation begin. She was not stupid. Darius almost wished she were. Stupid cruelty irritated him less than intelligent cruelty, because intelligent cruelty had choices. Look, she said, sweetening her voice. I don't want to be unkind. People who began sentences like that usually did. Then don't be, Darius said. Her smuzzers disappeared. I cleared my evening for this. I turned down a dinner with a venture partner and drove through that rain because I was told I would be meeting a man of substance. I don't know what little rebellion you're acting out here, but I am not the audience for it. A man of substance, he repeated. Yes. What does that look like to you? Not this. A server approached with a menu. Vanessa lifted one finger without looking at him. We're not dining, thank you. The server hesitated. Darius said, I'll have coffee. Black. Vanessa's eyes flashed. You are seriously ordering coffee? You said we're not dining. I said, I am not wasting dinner on this. The server vanished. Darius folded his hands on the table. Vanessa, I came because my grandmother respects your family. I thought we could have a conversation. That's all. Conversation is for people in the same room. Socially, I mean. She tilted her head. Do you understand what I am trying not to say? I think you're saying it clearly. Good. And don't make me feel cruel for having standards. That was the sentence, not the first insult, not the worst one. But the sentence, Darius felt it settle into him, flat and cold. Standards. His grandmother had used that word once too, but differently. Standards were how you treated the bus driver when you were late. Standards were whether you paid the woman cleaning your office enough to take her child to the dentist. Standards were what you did when nobody who could reward you was watching. Vanessa meant fabric and access and the geography of someone's bank account. The coffee came. The server placed it down with an apologetic glance. Vanessa stood. Tell your grandmother I wish her well. And please tell whoever arranged this that I don't do charity introductions. Charity, yes. She picked up her coat. I have worked too hard to sit across from a man who shows up looking like a warning. Darius looked at her then, quietly. She seemed to want anger, shame, a plea, some proof that her opinion had weight. He gave her none of it. Good night, Vanessa. Her jaw tightened. It bothered her that he did not break. Good luck with operations, she said. Then she walked away, heels striking the floor like a metronome, counting down to something she could not hear yet. Darius stayed. He drank the coffee. It was bitter and overpriced. Around him the restaurant breathed again. A man at the next table pretended not to watch. 2 women whispered. The hostess avoided looking his way. Darius took out his phone and opened the encrypted folder Malcolm had sent that afternoon. Meridian Vale's revised proposals sat at the top. Project lead, Vanessa Monroe. He stared at her name for a while. Then he closed the file. He did not feel revenge. Not yet. He felt confirmation. And sometimes confirmation was colder. At 11:42 that same night, Imani Carter dropped a tray of biscuits on the floor of Sweet Auburn Diner and said a word her grandmother would have slapped clean out of her mouth. Girl, Miss Loretta called from the grill. I heard that. Imani closed her eyes. Sorry. No, you ain't sorry, you're tired. Different illness, same face. A tired laugh escaped Imani before she could stop it. The diner was almost empty. Rain tapped the front windows. The old neon sign outside buzzed every few seconds like it had asthma. Sweet Auburn Diner sat 2 blocks from the tourist version of history, and half a mile from the kind nobody put on brochures, civil rights murals, condos going up too fast, old brick buildings with eviction notices taped crooked on doors, college kids buying $5 coffee, beside elders counting coins for the bus. Imani knew every crack in that sidewalk. She also knew the landlord wanted the diner gone, everybody knew. The new development company had already bought half the block. They sent letters with words like revitalization and community forward and mixed-use opportunity. Miss Loretta called them perfume on a dead rat. Imani crouched to gather the fallen biscuits. Her knees hurt, her feet hurt. Skin between her thumb and finger had split from washing dishes after the dishwasher broke again. She had a statistics exam at 9 in the morning and a scholarship review meeting at 4. She also had $63 in checking, a grandmother's rent to help with, and an electric bill folded in her backpack like a secret shame. So yeah, she was tired, but tired did not get to win. The bell over the front door rang. Cold rain blew in around the man who stepped inside. Imani looked up, grey hoodie, wet shoulders, muddy boots, face handsome in a way that seemed accidental, like he had not asked for it and did not know what to do with it. He had the stillness of someone who had walked through worse weather than rain. He stood near the door for half a second too long. People did that when they were deciding if they could afford to sit down. Imani recognized the pause. She had lived inside it. Kitchen's half closed, she called gently. But I can still get you coffee, and whatever didn't hit the floor. The man looked at the biscuits in her hand. For the first time that night, Darius Whitmore smiled like a person instead of a locked door. Floor biscuits excluded. Depends how strong your immune system is, Miss Loretta shouted. Don't you sell that man floor biscuits, Imani. I was negotiating, Miss Lowe. The man's smile deepened. He chose a booth near the window. Imani threw away the ruined biscuits, washed her hands, and poured coffee into a thick white mug with a chip near the handle. She carried it to him with 2 packets of sugar she had grabbed automatically. You want cream? Black is fine, you sure? It's diner coffee, it got opinions. So do most people. That landed differently than he seemed to intend. Imani studied him for half a breath. Long night? Informative. That's a polite way to say terrible. Maybe. She set the mug down. He reached for his pocket and stopped. There it was again, that tiny pause. She had seen men pat empty pockets and women count change under the table. Pride made people move slowly when money was involved. Pride was heavy. Nobody talked about that. Coffee's on the house, she said. His eyes lifted. No, yeah, I can pay. Then tip me tomorrow when you come back looking less like Atlanta tried to drown you. Tonight it's on the house. Across the room, Miss Loretta grunted approval. Darius looked at the coffee. A paper umbrella from some old catering box sat in a cup by the register. The floor smelled like bleach and butter. Somewhere in the kitchen, the old radio played Anita Baker, low enough to feel like memory. This place should not have felt safer than Belle Argent. It did. Thank you, he said. Don't thank me too hard. It's 3-hour-old coffee, still. She nodded and turned to clean the counter. A minute later, 2 men in expensive rain jackets came in laughing too loud. One of them shook water from his hair onto the floor Imani had just mopped. "You're still open?" he asked. "Coffee and pie," Imani said. "Kitchen's closed. Oh, come on, we just need burgers. Grill's off." He looked her over in the brown diner uniform, at the hair she had pulled into a puff at the back of her head, at the name tag that had lost the dot over the first I. "You sure you can't make it happen?" "I'm sure." His friend laughed. "Ask nice, Trey." Trey leaned on the counter. "Come on, sweetheart, be useful." Darius's hand tightened around the mug. Imani did not flinch. "Coffee and pie," she repeated. "Or there's a Waffle House 9 minutes away where somebody else can tell you no." Miss Loretta turned from the grill with a spatula in hand. That spatula had ended arguments before. Trey's smile soured. "Everybody got attitude now, and some people got ears for decoration," Miss Loretta said. The men left muttering. Imani locked the door behind them and exhaled. Darius watched her return to the counter. "Does that happen often? Men with jackets they can't afford and manners their mamas forgot to install? Yeah, you handled it well." I handled it employed, that's different. He looked at her name tag. Imani, that's me. I'm Darius, nice to meet you, Darius. She did not ask what he did not measure him, did not slide her gaze to his shoes and make a verdict. Instead, she walked to the back and returned with a foil-wrapped biscuit. This one didn't touch the floor. Don't argue. He took it because refusing would have insulted the kindness more than accepting it. The biscuit was warm. So was the room. For the first time in a long time, Darius sat somewhere. Nobody wanted anything from him except maybe to stop dripping on the floor. He left 20 minutes later after the rain slowed. On the table beneath the mug, he placed a $100 bill. Then he thought of Imani's eyes and took it back. Not because she did not deserve it, because something told him money too soon would make the moment smaller. He left a 10 instead. Outside, Malcolm pulled up in the Maybach half a block away. Darius climbed in with a foil-wrapped biscuit in one hand and something unnameable lodged under his ribs. Malcolm looked at the biscuit. Do I want to ask? No. How was dinner? Darius looked out at the diner sign flickering in the rain. I didn't have dinner. And the meeting? Darius unfolded the foil. Steam rose faintly. The meeting told me less than the coffee after it. Malcolm, to his credit, only blinked. Darius took one bite. Butter. Salt, a little too much baking powder. Perfect. Pull the full Meridian Vale file in the morning, he said. Every subcontractor, every campaign, every internal complaint that can legally be accessed, and find out who owns the block around Sweet Auburn Diner. Malcolm turned slowly. The diner? Yes, because of the biscuit. Darius watched rain slide over Atlanta's dark glass towers. Because I want to know why a woman working herself half to death in a place that feeds people has a development notice taped to the wall behind the register. Malcolm made a note. The Maybach moved into the street behind them. Sweet Auburn's neon sign buzzed and held on. For now, Vanessa Monroe arrived at Meridian Vale the next morning, with a green juice in one hand and Darius Whitmore already deleted from her mind. Not entirely. Men like that had a smell. Not body odor, failure. A damp, ordinary, going-nowhere smell that offended her because it reminded her of every room she had escaped. Her father had been a mechanic in Macon. A good man, people always said. Hard-working, honest. Broke. Her mother had cleaned houses for women who left jewelry on bathroom counters just to see if it would vanish. Vanessa had learned early that poverty was not romantic. Poverty was watching adults smile through humiliation because rent was due. She promised herself she would never be on the wrong side of a service entrance again. So yes, she had standards. Standards had saved her. That was what she told herself as she walked past cubicles where junior associates lowered their voices. Morning, she said without slowing. Morning, Vanessa? The Whitmore deck? A young analyst named Brielle stood too fast and knocked her knee against the desk. I'm finishing the demographic appendix now. Vanessa stopped. The whole row went quiet. Finishing? Brielle swallowed. I mean tightening. Do you know what finishing means to me? Yes. Then don't use words you cannot afford. Brielle's face burned. Vanessa placed her juice on the desk and leaned over the monitor. Charts. Too many colors, a headline that sounded like a non-profit brochure. This is soft. I used the community language from the brief. Community language is what people write when they have no strategy. Whitmore Global does not need a hug. It needs authority. It needs growth disguised as moral responsibility. Try again. Brielle nodded quickly. And Brielle, yes? Do not cry until lunch. It distracts the team. A few people looked down. Vanessa walked into her glass office and closed the door. On her desk sat a framed magazine profile from last year. Vanessa Monroe, the woman who knows what luxury wants. She touched the frame with one finger. Luxury wanted discipline. Luxury wanted distance from the messy things underneath it. Luxury wanted women like her, women who had sanded off every rough edge until nobody could hear Macon when she spoke. Her phone buzzed, a message from a board contact. Whitmore Global moved Meridian Vale to live pitch. Next Thursday, executive observers possible. Vanessa stared. Then she laughed once, softly. Of course. The work was too good to ignore. Whatever embarrassment that Hoodie man had brought into her evening, the universe had corrected itself by morning. She stepped out of her office. Team. Conference room now, faces lifted. We advanced. Brielle whispered. Vanessa allowed a smile. We advanced. The room erupted. People clapped, hugged, exhaled. Someone actually said, "Oh my God," like a prayer. Vanessa raised one hand for 10 seconds. They did. Done, now listen. Whitmore Global is not a client, it is a door. If we walk through it, everything changes. Promotions, bonuses, acquisition interest, national press. If we embarrass ourselves, we go back to pitching regional banks and oat milk startups. So from now until Thursday, your evenings belong to me. Your weekends belong to me. Your excuses belong in whatever trash can you cry over. Clear, a chorus of yeses. Not enthusiastic. Obedient, she preferred that. Good. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo from her aunt. The caption read, "Such a shame last night was disappointing. His grandmother is embarrassed but says thank you for being honest." Vanessa smirked. Embarrassed was appropriate. She was about to put the phone away when another message arrived from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. It showed the front of Sweet Auburn Diner in the rain. Through the window, Vanessa could see a black waitress at a booth, smiling faintly as she set coffee in front of a man in a grey hoodie. The angle was from across the street. The man's face was turned enough to recognize Darius. The failed dinner had gone somewhere else. Vanessa's smile thinned. Not because she wanted him, that would be absurd. Because men she rejected were supposed to remain rejected. They were not supposed to walk out of her judgment and into somebody else's kindness like the universe had an opinion. She zoomed in on the waitress, young, dark skin, natural hair, diner uniform. Pretty in an unpolished way Vanessa disliked on sight because it seemed unaware of its own disadvantage. The unknown number sent one sentence. Thought you might want to know who he picked after you. Vanessa looked through the glass wall at her team, all of them waiting for her next instruction. She should have deleted the photo. She should have focused on Whitmore. Instead, she saved it. The first mistake had been insulting a man in a hoodie. The second was deciding the waitress mattered. The third was thinking she could destroy both problems before either one learned her name. Imani's scholarship review lasted 17 minutes. She knew because the wall clock ticked loud enough to make each minute feel like a witness. 3 people sat across from her at Georgia State's graduate aid office, Dr. Patel from the statistics department, Ms. Green from student finance, and a new woman from the Whitmore Community Scholars Foundation whose badge read Elise Hammond. Whitmore. Imani had heard the name 1,000 times. Buildings, grants, hospitals, a business school wing, a holiday toy drive that local news filmed every December. She had never imagined a Whitmore person would sit across from her and ask why her rent payments were late. "Your grades are excellent," Elise said. "Thank you. Your community work is strong. I tutor at the West End Youth Centre twice a week when my work schedule lets me." Ms. Green smiled kindly. "We know. The concern is not merit, Ms. Carter. It's stability. The foundation prefers recipients who can maintain full academic participation. Your hours at the diner are extensive." Imani clasped her hands under the table. "My grandmother had a stroke last year. She's better now, but she can't work. I cover what I can." Dr. Patel leaned forward. "You should have told me. I didn't want to bring personal issues into the program. You're allowed to be a person, Imani." She looked down because that kindness almost undid her. Elise turned a page. "There is also a pending concern about your housing address." Imani's head lifted. "What concern?" "Foundation received notice that the property may be under legal dispute or redevelopment review." "That's not my legal dispute. That's the landlord trying to push people out." "I understand. But if you are displaced, your enrollment could be affected. We simply need a plan." "A plan." Everyone loved plans from people who did not have to choose between prescriptions and textbooks. Imani swallowed. "My plan is to stay. My grandmother has lived in that apartment for 28 years. Her church is there. Her doctor is on the bus line. Her whole life is in 3 rooms and a balcony with dead basil plants she refuses to throw away. So my plan is to stay." Silence. Then Elise's expression softened. "Good. Send documentation by Monday. Lease notices medical expenses. We'll review emergency support." Imani blinked. "Emergency support? Possibly. No promises yet." No promises was still more than Imani had walked in with. After the meeting, she sat on a bench outside Langdale Hall and let the city noise move around her. Buses sighed. Students laughed. Somebody's skateboard cracked against concrete. Her phone buzzed. A text from Miss Loretta. Baby, you know a man named Darius? Imani stared. Before she could answer, another bubble appeared. Some fancy woman in heels came by asking questions. Didn't buy nothing. Looked at the floor like it offended her. Imani's stomach tightened. What white lady? Blonde. Smile like a knife in church. Imani read it twice. Then a third message. I told her if she wanted coffee, she could order coffee. And if she wanted gossip, she could go home and talk to her own miserable reflection. Despite herself, Imani laughed. Then she stopped. Darius had been one wet stranger with sad eyes and no umbrella. She had given him coffee, that was all. Why would a woman in heels ask about him? And why did Imani suddenly feel as if that free cup of coffee had opened a door she had not meant to touch? Darius did not return to Sweet Auburn Diner the next night. He almost did, twice. Both times he made it as far as Auburn Avenue and told the driver to keep going. He could justify a corporate visit, a foundation inquiry, a development review. He could send attorneys, analysts, inspectors. He could move money quietly enough that nobody would know where the air had changed. He could not walk into that diner because a woman had given him coffee, and he wanted to feel human again. Want made things dangerous. Instead, he worked. Whitmore Global's top floor stayed lit past midnight. The chairman's office overlooked Atlanta in a sweep of glass and dark blue distance. Darius stood at the window while Malcolm laid out 3 files on the table. Meridian Vale, Malcolm said. Sweet Auburn block ownership. And Imani Carter. Darius turned. I did not ask for a personal file on her. You asked who owns the block. Her name appears in the tenant advocacy complaint attached to the development challenge. I kept it limited, public and foundation related only. Darius did not touch that file. Summarize grandmother Ruth Carter, stroke last year. Imani is a graduate student in applied statistics at Georgia State, Whitmore Community Scholars recipient. Works at Sweet Auburn Diner, tutors at West End Youth Center. No criminal record, no lawsuits, no debts beyond normal student and medical expenses. Normal, Darius said. Malcolm heard the bitterness. For this country, yes. Darius looked at the development file. Who owns the block? A shell company, Peachtree Renewal Partners. Behind that, a private equity real estate fund. Behind that, 2 managing partner is Cooper Vale. Darius turned fully. Meridian Vale. His brother founded the agency. Cooper sits on their advisory board. There it was, a thread. Vanessa's firm wanted the Whitmore account. The same network wanted Sweet Auburn's block cleared. Imani's diner sat inside both stories like a match near gasoline. Does Vanessa Monroe know Cooper Vale? Malcolm gave him a look. Very well. Calendar overlap. Photos from 2 fundraisers. A campaign launch last year, possibly personal at some point. Darius opened the Meridian file. Complaints. Not enough to sink anyone. Too much to ignore. Junior staff reporting verbal abuse. Unpaid overtime buried under exempt status. One quiet settlement from a black freelancer who claimed Vanessa had removed her from a client presentation after saying, off record, that the room needed a more premium face. Darius read that sentence twice. A more premium face. His jaw tightened. Move Meridian Vale to the live pitch, he said. Malcolm's eyebrows lifted. You want them closer? I want them visible. And Ms. Monroe? I want her comfortable enough to show us who she is. Malcolm nodded slowly. That can become cruel. Darius closed the file. Only if I create the evidence, I won't. You'll just let her create it. People usually do when they think the room belongs to them. His phone lit up. Grandmother, he answered. Yes, ma'am. Evelyn Whitmore did not waste breath. How was Vanessa? Darius looked at the rain beginning again over the glass. Efficient. That bad? Worse. His grandmother was quiet. I suspected. Then why send me? Because suspicion is gossip, until a person proves it. Darius smiled despite himself. You sound like Granddad. Your grandfather had sense before the Lord took him. Do not change the subject. She proved it. Good, then don't marry her. That was never in danger. And don't punish her because she embarrassed you. That landed. Darius said nothing. Evelyn softened, but only slightly. Baby, power is a blade. If you swing it every time someone cuts you with a plastic knife, you'll end up uglier than your enemies. There it was, one of the 4 or 5 wisdom lines he would remember whether he wanted to or not. I know, do you? He looked at Imani's unopened file. I'm trying to. Try harder. She hung up. Malcolm pretended not to have heard. Darius appreciated the lie. Set the live pitch for Thursday, Darius said. I will observe the final round personally if Meridian advances. Quietly until then, Understood. And send Foundation Council to review displacement risks for our scholars, all of them. Not just Imani Carter. Malcolm made the note. That distinction matters? It better. Darius turned back to the window. The city below looked expensive from a distance. Up close, he was beginning to remember. It was full of people holding it together with tape, prayer, and diner coffee. Vanessa came to Sweet Auburn Diner at 2:15 on Saturday afternoon wearing white trousers. That was how Imani knew she was not there to eat. Nobody serious about a diner wore white trousers unless they planned to be disappointed by gravy. Miss Loretta clocked her first. "Knife smile at 3 o'clock, she muttered. Imani turned from refilling ketchup bottles. A woman stood just inside the door, taking in the cracked red stools, the handwritten specials sign, the old photographs of Dr. King marches and church picnics, and Miss Loretta's late husband holding a catfish the size of a toddler. Her eyes landed on Imani. Recognition flashed. Not normal recognition. Possession. Like she had found an item on a shelf. "Can I help you?" Imani asked, said. "To go cream, sugar, black." Imani poured it. Vanessa watched her hands. "You were working Thursday night. I work most nights." A man came in, grey hoodie, tall, looked unsettled. Imani placed the lid on the cup. "People come in. His name is Darius." "Okay." Vanessa smiled. "You don't remember?" "I remember customers who leave things, threaten staff, or run out on checks." He didn't do any of that. Miss Loretta made a pleased sound from the grill. Vanessa's gaze flicked toward her, then back. "That's charming. That's $2. Vanessa put a 10 on the counter and did not move her hand. "Did he say anything about me?" There it was. Imani looked at the manicured fingers pinning the bill down. "I don't know you." "No, you don't." Vanessa leaned closer. Her perfume was soft and expensive and somehow mean. "So let me save you trouble. Men like that do not wander into places like this because they are lost. They wander in because they are bored. You understand?" Imani's face went still. "Not really." "Then I'll be plain. If a man with access makes you feel special for 5 minutes, enjoy the story, don't build a plan around it." "A plan?" Some girls see a watch, a car, a last name, and suddenly every little kindness becomes strategy. Miss Loretta turned off the grill. The click sounded loud. Imani pushed the coffee across the counter. "You can take your drink." Vanessa did not. "I checked you out. Graduate's scholarship girl, West End address, working nights. It's impressive, honestly. Very inspiring. People love inspiring. They donate to inspiring. They don't marry it." The diner went quiet. A man eating pie at the far end looked up. Imani felt heat climb her neck. Not shame. Anger, old anger. The kind every black woman she knew had been taught to fold small enough to carry in public without scaring people. She did not fold it. "Are you finished?" Vanessa's smile sharpened. "Almost. Stay away from Darius. Whatever game you think you're playing, you are out of your league. I gave him coffee." That's how it starts. Imani laughed once because the alternative was worse. "Lady, I have a shift, an exam, a grandmother who thinks voicemail is witchcraft, and a landlord trying to turn my block into glass boxes. I don't have time to chase a wet man in a hoodie." Someone in the diner snorted. Vanessa's face hardened. "Careful. You came into my job, and I can come into other places too." Universities, foundations, employers. People ask questions when they receive warnings. Miss Loretta stepped beside Imani. "You threatening my girl?" Vanessa picked up the coffee at last. "I'm advising her." "Advise yourself out the door." For a second, Vanessa's mask slipped. What showed underneath was not confidence. It was panic wearing lipstick. Then the smile returned. "Sweet place," she said, looking around. "Enjoy it while it lasts." She left the 10 on the counter like contamination and walked out. Imani stood very still. Miss Loretta touched her arm. "Baby, I'm fine." I said I'm fine." Her phone buzzed in her apron. She pulled it out with fingers that felt too stiff. An email from the scholarship office. Subject, urgent review notice. Imani opened it. "Dear Ms. Carter, we have received concerning information regarding possible undisclosed outside financial support and conduct inconsistent with Foundation ethics standards. Your emergency aid review and current scholarship disbursement will be temporarily paused pending clarification." Attached was a photo. Through the rain-streaked window of Sweet Auburn Diner, Imani could see herself leaning over Darius's booth, smiling. Someone had circled her face in red. Under it, a typed note read, "Recipient appears to be cultivating wealthy male donors outside proper channels. Possible fraud risk. For a moment the diner tilted. Miss Loretta took the phone from her hand and read. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh, that woman got the devil busy in her inbox." Imani's throat closed. Vanessa had not just threatened her. She had already started. By Monday morning, Imani's life had become a folder of explanations. She explained to the scholarship office that she had not known Darius beyond 1 cup of coffee. She explained to Dr. Patel that she had not solicited money. She explained to her grandmother why she looked like she had not slept, without saying the words that would make Ruth Carter try to get out of bed and fight somebody with a cane. She explained to Miss Loretta that she could still work the dinner shift. That was the lie everybody let her tell. The scholarship pause meant her tuition balance might come due. The emergency aid review was frozen. Worse, the allegation sat in a system somewhere with her name attached to it. Conduct inconsistent, fraud risk, words like mold. Even if scrubbed, they left smell. At 6:30 that evening, she found Darius waiting outside the diner. No hoodie this time, a dark sweater. Still simple, still not expensive looking to people who did not know fabric. Rain threatened again, heavy in the clouds. Imani stopped on the sidewalk. He looked up. "Imani, no, whatever this is, no. I heard what happened." "From who?" "A foundation alert crossed my office." Her eyes narrowed. "Your office." He took a breath, too long. "Wrong answer already. I should have told you who I was." Something inside her went quiet, not calm. Quiet the way a room goes quiet after glass breaks. "Who are you?" "Darius Whitmore." She waited. People passed behind them. Umbrellas tucked under arms, a bus sighing at the corner. "Whitmore like the foundation," she said. "Yes." "Whitmore like the buildings." "Yes." "Whitmore like the people holding my scholarship in their hands." His face tightened. "Yes." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Wow. I did not know you were a scholar when we met. But you knew after." "Yes. And you didn't say anything. I didn't want to make you feel watched." "Congratulations, you failed weird." He accepted that because it was fair. "The allegation is false, I can fix it." "No." "Imani, no. You don't get to fix me like a paperwork error." "That's not what I meant." "Then speak better." He looked away for a second, jaw working. She saw then that he was not used to being interrupted. Maybe not because he was arrogant. Maybe because power had trained everybody around him to sand their sentences smooth. She did not owe him smooth. "A woman came here," Imani said. "Blonde, expensive. Mean in that way people call professional when they're scared of her. She knew your name. She knew mine. She threatened my school, my job, and the diner. Then an email hit the foundation with a picture of me serving you coffee like I was some scammer. Did that happen because of you?" Darius's eyes darkened. "It happened because Vanessa Monroe is afraid." "Of what?" "Losing access. Losing face. Losing control." "I asked if it happened because of you." He was silent. There it was. Imani nodded slowly. "Okay, I did not send her here, but you brought whatever storm follows you." "Yes." The honesty hurt more than a dodge might have. The diner door opened. Miss Loretta stuck her head out, eyes moving between them. "Need me to throw something?" "No, Miss Lowe," Imani said. Darius looked at the older woman. "I'm sorry." Rich sorry or regular sorry?" "Regular, for now." Miss Loretta grunted despite herself. Imani did not smile. "You need to leave," she told him. "Let me help." "I said leave." He looked as if he wanted to argue. Then to his credit, he did not. He pulled a card from his pocket and placed it on the newspaper box beside them. "If the foundation contacts you again, you can call Malcolm, not me. He will connect you with independent counsel, not Whitmore counsel. Someone who represents you." "I don't need charity." "It's not charity, it's protection. From the mess you didn't warn me about." "Yes." She hated that he kept agreeing. It left her with nowhere to put the anger except where it belonged. Everywhere. Stepped back. "Imani, I am sorry." She looked at the card but did not pick it up. "Good night, Mr. Whitmore." The formality struck him harder than anything else she had said. He left. After his car disappeared into traffic, Miss Loretta came outside and picked up the card. "Heavy paper," she said. "Rich folks apologizing cardstock." Imani pressed both hands to her face. She did not cry, not yet. The shift was starting, and anyway, crying would not answer the email waiting in her inbox. By midnight, there would be another one. This time from Peachtree Renewal Partners. Notice of accelerated redevelopment hearing. Sweet Auburn Diner had 30 days. Vanessa watched the first pitch rehearsal fall apart and felt alive. Pressure clarified people. Some became diamonds, most became paste. Her team had been living in the office for 3 days, surviving on coffee, protein bars, and fear. The Whitmore live pitch was Thursday. Then, after the first rehearsal went well enough, an unexpected supplemental challenge arrived from the Whitmore strategy office. New requirement: rebuild the proposal around under-resourced urban communities and digital trust among Black Gen Z consumers. Budget reduced by half, impact expectations increased, data sources required, field authenticity. Vanessa had nearly thrown her laptop. It was a trap. She felt it even before she saw the language. The topic put her directly in contact with everything she had spent years editing out of her life. Churches with folding chairs, barbershops where men argued about politics over clippers, diners with chipped mugs, girls like Imani Carter speaking in rooms where Vanessa had bled to belong. No, absolutely not. She would not let a waitress become the moral center of a billion-dollar pitch. "Brielle," Vanessa snapped. The analyst lifted her head. Her eyes were red. "Yes, the community trust slides are garbage. I pulled recent survey data. You pulled boredom. Where is the emotional lever? Where is aspiration? Where is the insight that makes Whitmore executives feel brave without risking anything?" Brielle rubbed her forehead. "Maybe the insight is that people don't trust campaigns that treat them like props." The room went still. Vanessa turned slowly. "Excuse me?" Brielle seemed to realize she had spoken out loud. "Too late now. I said maybe we should talk to actual people in those communities before building a deck about them." Actual people? Yes. "Do you have time to conduct a valid field study before Thursday?" "No, but..." "Then what you have is not a strategy. It's guilt in flats." Brielle looked down. Vanessa stepped closer. "Let me explain something. Clients do not buy truth. They buy control over the way truth looks in public. Our job is to make that control beautiful. If you want to save the world, apply to a non-profit and make $42,000 explaining trauma to a committee. If you want to work here, fix the slide." Nobody moved. Vanessa returned to her office and shut the door hard enough to rattle the glass. Her private phone buzzed. "Cooper Vale," she answered. "Not now. It has to be now," Cooper said. Whitmore's legal team requested development ownership documents on the Auburn block. Vanessa's blood cooled. "Why? You tell me. You were the one asking about the diner girl." "Don't call her that." "What diner girl?" "Call her nothing. She is nothing." Cooper laughed softly. "People who are nothing don't get billionaires pulling property records." Vanessa pressed her fingers to her temple. "Can the hearing be moved up?" "Already filed. 30 days. Make it harder for them to challenge." "You're asking me to do a lot for an account you haven't won yet." "If I win Whitmore, Meridian explodes. Your redevelopment gets a community campaign wrapped in saint language. You want activists off your back? Let me make displacement look like opportunity." Cooper was quiet. "And if you don't win?" Vanessa looked through the glass at her exhausted team. "I will." "This obsession with the waitress," he said. "Is she leverage or ego?" Vanessa's grip tightened on the phone. "Both can be useful." After she hung up, she opened the photo again. Imani smiling over a cup of coffee. Darius looking up at her like she had said something that mattered. Vanessa hated that look, not because it was romantic, because she had never received it from anyone with power unless she had first earned, polished, performed, and paid for the room. This girl had gotten it in a diner uniform for free. Vanessa opened a blank email from a burner account. 2. Georgia State Ethics Intake, Whitmore Foundation Review, Sweet Auburn Diner Corporate Contact. Subject: Pattern of manipulative conduct by scholarship recipient. Her fingers hovered. A small voice very far away sounded like her mother. "Don't do ugly things in pretty clothes and call it survival." Vanessa deleted the sentence in her head. Then she began to type. Imani went to the redevelopment hearing with a folder, a borrowed blazer, and Miss Loretta's hand on her back. The hearing room in the municipal building smelled like paper and stale air. Folding chairs filled with tenants, small business owners, lawyers, developers, city staff, and people in suits who seemed to have been born bored. Ruth Carter insisted on coming, which meant Imani had spent the morning arguing with her grandmother and losing. "You think because one side of my body got lazy I can't sit in a chair and stare at a thief," Ruth had said. So there she was, cane across her lap, church hat pinned with defiance. Miss Loretta sat beside her. "If I get arrested," Miss Loretta whispered, "don't let them put my mugshot on Facebook without my good earrings." Ruth patted her hand. I'll fix your hair first. Imani almost smiled, almost. Then Vanessa walked in, not alone. Cooper Vale came beside her, silver-haired, handsome and smooth in the way of men who had never had to raise their voices to ruin anyone. Vanessa wore a navy suit and carried a leather folder. Her eyes found Imani immediately. She looked pleased. That scared Imani more than anger would have. The hearing began with procedural language. Parcels, investment, mixed use, walkability, affordable allocation, percentages that sounded generous, until a tenant lawyer explained they were temporary, limited, and priced above what most current residents could pay. Then public comment opened. Miss Loretta went first. She stood slowly. My name is Loretta James. Sweet Auburn Diner has been on that block 31 years. My husband bought the first grill with money from driving night buses and fixing church vans. I have fed students who couldn't pay, old men who had nowhere to sit after funerals, nurses coming off double shifts, and developers who smiled in my face while planning to bulldoze my kitchen. You'll call that block underutilized because you don't know how to measure the sound of somebody saying, "Put it on my tab until Friday." A murmur moved through the room. Imani saw one city staffer look down. Cooper did not. Vanessa whispered something to him. He smiled. Then Imani spoke. Her hand shook when she unfolded her paper, so she put the paper away. My grandmother lives above the beauty supply on Auburn. She knows everybody on her floor. Mr. Jenkins checks her mail when her hip hurts. Mrs. Alvarez brings soup. Miss Loretta sends plates up when I work late. If you move her 20 miles away and call it a housing solution, you didn't solve housing. You broke a network and put a rent cap on the apology. Ruth made a sound behind her. Imani kept going. I study data. I know numbers matter, but numbers without context can lie politely. This project says it will bring value to the block. I'm asking value for who? And at whose funeral are you cutting the ribbon? A few people clapped before the chairperson asked for quiet. Imani sat, her heart pounded. For half a second she felt strong. Then Vanessa stood. She smiled with sympathy so false it made Imani's teeth hurt. My name is Vanessa Monroe, strategic consultant, supporting Peachtree Renewal's community transition messaging. I want to begin by honoring the emotion in this room. Truly, stories matter, but responsible leadership cannot be governed by nostalgia alone. There it was, nostalgia, the word people used when they wanted grief to sound childish. Vanessa continued. The current properties have code challenges, limited economic output, and minimal scalability. Renewal will create jobs, improve safety, and attract investment. We are also exploring a heritage wall to preserve the neighborhood's legacy. Miss Loretta muttered, "A wall, Lord hold my mule." Vanessa's eyes flicked toward her. We understand change is difficult, but we must be careful not to let individual hardship narratives prevent progress for the broader community. Individual hardship narratives. Ruth Carter's cane tapped once against the floor. Cooper rose after her, numbers ready, charts, renderings, a coffee shop with fake exposed brick, happy silhouettes who looked nothing like anybody in the room. The hearing ended without a decision. That was how bureaucracy hurt people. Slowly, then all at once. Outside, in the hallway, Vanessa approached Imani near the elevators. Miss Loretta had taken Ruth to the restroom, leaving Imani alone for 30 seconds too long. "You're good," Vanessa said. Imani turned. "Stay away from me." "No, I mean it." That line about the ribbon and the funeral. Very strong. A little theatrical, but strong. "What do you want?" "To help you understand your position." Imani laughed under her breath. "You keep trying to help me. It feels a lot like harassment." Vanessa stepped closer. "Darius Whitmore is not coming to save you. Men like him enjoy moral moments. They collect them. You were a good one. The brave black waitress. The neighborhood with the sick grandmother. Very moving. But when the boardroom door closes, he will choose power because power chooses itself. Then why are you scared?" Vanessa's face changed, tiny but enough. Imani saw it, and Vanessa saw Imani see it. "You think I'm scared of you?" "No," Imani said. "I think you're scared he saw you." For one breath, nothing moved, then Vanessa smiled. "Be careful, Imani Carter. People love a humble girl. They get tired of an angry one." She walked away. Imani stood there, pulse loud in her ears. She had entered the building afraid of eviction. She left understanding something worse. Vanessa was not fighting for a project. She was fighting to erase a witness. Darius watched the hearing recording alone. Malcolm stood near the office door waiting. On the screen, Imani spoke without notes. Her voice trembled once, then steadied. She talked about networks, not pity, about data, not charity, about how value had to be measured by more than glass. Darius paused the video after her final sentence. At whose funeral are you cutting the ribbon? He sat back. She's good, Malcolm said. She's right, both. Darius let the video run. Vanessa appeared next. Responsible leadership. Nostalgia. Individual hardship narratives. By the time she finished, Darius's expression had gone flat. She is advising Peachtree renewal. Unofficially, Malcolm said. Paid through Cooper Vale's consulting arm. It was not disclosed in Meridian's Whitmore pitch documents. Conflict of interest, at minimum, and the emails to the foundation. We traced two through anonymized servers. Not enough for court yet. Enough to connect timing and language patterns to material on Vanessa's personal cloud if subpoenaed. Can we protect Imani's scholarship now? Yes, the review board can clear her based on lack of evidence. But if you do it personally, it looks compromised. Yes, Darius hated that. Power could open doors, but it also contaminated them. If he touched Imani's case directly, Vanessa's lie would gain shape. Independent review, he said. External Ethics Council. Fast. Imani receives written notice that the allegations were unsubstantiated and that the foundation regrets the harm caused. No mention of me. Already drafted. Darius looked up. Malcolm shrugged. You pay me to know where your conscience is about to trip over process. Do I not enough? Darius almost smiled. Then his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A video. He opened it. The clip showed Imani outside the municipal hearing, speaking to a local activist. The caption layered over it read, Whitmore scholar tied to anti-development agitation while under ethics review. Another message followed. Careful who becomes the face of your community campaign. Darius stared at the screen. Malcolm's phone buzzed a second later. Then the chief communications officers, then legal. Someone was seeding the story. Fast. Who received it? Darius asked. Malcolm was already typing. Local business reporters, 2 board members, foundation staff. Meridian Vale's general inbox by mistake or arrogance. Hard to tell. Darius stood. The city beyond the window looked suddenly too clean. Move Meridian to final pitch. Malcolm's head snapped up. After this? Yes, Darius. There were only a few people who used his first name in that tone. Darius turned. Say it. This is starting to look like a stage. It is a stage. Vanessa built it when she decided to perform. Your grandmother's blade warning. I remember. Do you? Darius looked at the paused video of Imani. Not smiling, not asking for rescue. Standing in a hallway with borrowed confidence and a cheap blazer, refusing to be moved quietly. I won't punish Vanessa for insulting me, he said. But if she used our foundation, our account and a redevelopment scheme to harm a scholar and a neighborhood, I will expose that. Publicly if necessary. Malcolm held his gaze, then nodded. Final pitch is Friday. Executive boardroom? Yes. Chairman attendance disclosed. Darius thought of Belle Argent. Vanessa's glass-cold smile. Standards. Then he thought of Imani saying, speak better. No, he said, not until I enter the room. Malcolm did not smile. He simply made the note. Third mistake Vanessa made was cruelty. The fourth was documentation. The fifth was believing a boardroom could protect her from both. Imani received the clearance email on Wednesday. Foundation found the allegations unsubstantiated. Her scholarship was reinstated. Emergency aid review resumed. The language was careful, legal and cold, but she read it 6 times anyway. Then she went into the diner's walk-in cooler and cried between boxes of lettuce and frozen fries. Miss Loretta found her there 3 minutes later. You hiding or chilling? Imani wiped her face. Both. Miss Loretta stepped inside and let the heavy door swing almost closed. The cooler hummed around them. Scholarship? Back. Good. Aid review too. Better. The diner still has 30 days. Then we got 30 days to make noise. Imani laughed through tears. I'm so tired, I know. I hate that she made me feel dirty for being helped. Miss Loretta's face softened. Baby, people like that know exactly where to press. They see a bruise and call it a button. Imani leaned against the shelf. Darius offered help. I sent him away. Good? Yes. A man with secrets needed to learn your no had a spine. If he worth anything, he learned. And if he isn't, then you saved yourself time. The cooler door opened. Brielle stood there, eyes wide, coat damp, a messenger bag over one shoulder. Imani straightened. Can I help you? Brielle looked behind her nervously. Are you Imani Carter? Miss Loretta stepped forward. Depenzuski, my name is Brielle. I work at Meridian Vale. Vanessa Monroe is my boss. The cooler seemed to get colder. Imani's face closed. You need to leave. I have evidence. That stopped everything. Brielle opened her bag with shaking hands and pulled out a flash drive. Emails, drafts, screenshots. I shouldn't have copied them. I know that. But she used me to pull your foundation contacts. She told me it was reputational screening. Then I saw the burner draft. The wording matched the ethics complaint. She also has a side contract with Cooper Vale. She plans to use the Whitmore pitch to sell the redevelopment as community transformation. Imani stared at the flash drive. Why bring this to me? Brielle's mouth trembled. Because you said numbers without context can lie politely at the hearing. I watched the clip, and because she made me write lies in a beautiful font for 2 years. I'm done. Miss Loretta took the flash drive before Imani could. This thing got a virus? Brielle blinked. No, you sure? Because my nephew clicked one coupon link and his computer started speaking Russian. Despite everything, Imani laughed. Then she looked at Brielle. If this is real, you could lose your job. I know. Vanessa will come after you. She already does. Just slower. There was a whole world in that sentence. Imani understood it. Miss Loretta did too. Brielle wiped one tear quickly, embarrassed. I don't know if Mr. Whitmore is good. I don't know any billionaires. But I know Vanessa is counting on everyone being too scared or too tired to tell the truth. Imani looked at the flash drive in Miss Loretta's hand. For days she had felt like a thing being moved around by people with money. Now a door had opened. Not rescue, a choice. She reached for Malcolm's heavy business card, still tucked in her apron, because Miss Loretta had refused to throw it away. Okay, she said. Then we don't give this to Darius. We give it to a lawyer who works for me. Miss Loretta's smile spread slow. There she is. Brielle exhaled like she had been holding her breath all week. Outside the cooler, the bell over the diner door rang. A lunch customer called for coffee. The world kept needing things, but this time Imani had something the world did not know about yet. Proof. Friday morning, Vanessa Monroe dressed for victory. Dark emerald suit, gold earrings, hair pulled back with deliberate severity, shoes high enough to hurt and expensive enough to justify it. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw no trace of the girl from Macon, who had once eaten cereal with water because the milk was gone. Good. That girl had been weak. That girl had watched her mother come home from cleaning houses with swollen hands and still say rich people were not better, just luckier. Vanessa had known that was a lie. Rich people were better at distance. Distance was everything. Her phone rang. Cooper, tell me something useful, she said. The hearing board delayed the block decision. Too much public attention. Delayed isn't denied, no, but Whitmore legal sniffing around made people nervous. After today, Whitmore will be our client, then we'll reposition the project. You sound confident. I am prepared. And the Carter girl? Vanessa applied lipstick. Handled. That was not entirely true. The scholarship had been reinstated. Someone had moved faster than expected. But the smear had done enough. Imani's name had circulated. Doubt had been planted. Vanessa understood reputation. You did not have to prove rot. You only had to suggest moisture. The final pitch would fix everything. Whitmore Global wanted authenticity. Fine. Vanessa had built a deck that looked like authenticity after a luxury rebrand. Black teenagers in golden hour photography, historic neighborhood language, heritage fund, digital trust, micro-influencer partnerships. A line about community stewardship that would make guilty executives feel almost brave. It was beautiful. It was hollow. But hollow things echoed well in boardrooms. At 9:10, the Meridian Vale team entered Whitmore Tower. Brielle walked behind Vanessa, pale and quiet. Vanessa had noticed her strange mood but had no time to discipline it. Later. Everything troublesome could be handled later. The lobby rose 5 stories around them. Glass and stone and living green walls. Sunlight slid across the floor. Security greeted them by name. A receptionist escorted them to a private elevator. The meeting has been moved to the 48th floor, she said. Vanessa's pulse quickened. Executive level? Yes, ma'am. Her smile nearly escaped. Executive level meant seriousness. Seriousness meant money. In the elevator, her boss, Martin Keller, leaned toward her. This is bigger than expected. We are ready. I hope so. She hated that. Hope was for people without leverage. The elevator opened into a quiet corridor where the carpet swallowed footsteps. Framed photographs lined the wall. Whitmore hospitals, school grants, solar projects, small business funds, a ribbon cutting outside a grocery store in a food desert. Vanessa glanced at them and saw messaging opportunities. Boardroom doors opened. Inside, several senior executives already sat around a long table. Legal strategy, foundation leadership, communications, community investment. Vanessa recognized two from business magazines. At the head of the table sat an empty chair. Not just empty, waiting. A small white card stood before it, turned away from her. Vanessa told herself not to stare. The Meridian team set up. Slides loaded, water poured, laptops connected. Then the room shifted, not visibly. Atmospherically, people straightened before the door opened. Malcolm Price entered first. Vanessa knew his face from executive event photos. Chairman's office, gatekeeper, serious man, expensive silence. Her mouth went dry. Behind him came Darius. For half a second, Vanessa's mind rejected the image. No hoodie, no mud, no ordinary anything. He wore a charcoal suit cut so perfectly it seemed less worn than obeyed. His hair was close-cropped, his beard neat, his expression calm enough to be merciless. A watch caught the light at his wrist. Not loud, worse, quietly impossible. The executives stood. All of them. Martin Keller stood too, startled into obedience. Vanessa did not move. She could not. Malcolm's voice filled the room. Good morning. This final review will be chaired by Darius Whitmore, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Whitmore Global. The words did not hit Vanessa all at once. They arrived separately. Darius Whitmore, Chairman, Chief Executive Officer. Her vision tunneled. Belle Argent returned in pieces. Her voice saying unemployed, charity introductions, a warning, her standards. The man she had dismissed as beneath the room owned the room. No. Owned the building, owned the account, owned the silence she was drowning in. Darius took the head chair. His eyes passed over the table and landed on her. There was no anger in them. That was worse. Anger would have made her important. He looked at her like evidence. Please begin, he said. Vanessa's body remembered how to stand because ambition was stronger than panic, but not by much. She moved to the screen. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. Meridian Vale is honored to present a strategy rooted in trust, cultural relevance, and measurable growth. Her voice held. Good. Slide 1. A black teenage girl laughing under string lights. Slide 2. A mural. Slide 3. The word belonging in a font that cost $800. Vanessa found rhythm. Her training took over. She spoke of Gen Z skepticism, community-led storytelling, economic empowerment, digital ambassadors. She softened her hands, lowered her voice at the emotional parts, made eye contact with everyone except Darius. It could still work. Then Darius interrupted Mrs. Monroe. Her name in his voice almost made her flinch. Yes, Mr. Whitmore? Slide 12. Your trust index. Source? A composite of third-party research, social listening, and proprietary analysis. Which third-party research? Several. Our appendix. The appendix cites a 2-year-old retail survey, a youth banking poll with a suburban sample, and scraped sentiment data from accounts your team did not verify as local. Correct? The room quieted. Vanessa's fingers tightened around the remote. Those were part of a broader synthesis. A synthesis can be useful. It can also launder weak data into confident language. Which is it here? Martin shifted in his chair. Vanessa smiled. We believe the directional insight is sound. Belief is not a source. A tiny sound came from someone at the far end of the table. Not quite a laugh, not mercy either. Vanessa's face warmed. Understood. We can refine the data. Let's discuss field authenticity, Darius said. Your proposal references direct community listening sessions in Sweet Auburn, West End, and Mechanicsville. When did those sessions occur? Silence. Brielle looked down. Vanessa could feel her. Traitor energy had a temperature. We conducted informal scans, Vanessa said. Digital and in-person observation. Observation is not listening. With respect, Mr. Whitmore, in fast turnaround strategy. With respect, Ms. Monroe, do not use black neighborhoods as scenery and call it listening. The sentence landed like a dropped glass. Nobody moved. Vanessa's throat tightened. That was never our intention. Darius opened a folder. Intention is difficult to audit. Documents are easier. Malcolm stood and distributed packets. Vanessa did not touch hers. Martin did. His face changed by the second page. Darius continued, voice even. Whitmore Global received evidence that Meridian Vale's project lead maintained an undisclosed consulting relationship with Cooper Vale, a managing partner connected to Peachtree Renewal Partners. That entity is currently pursuing redevelopment of the same Sweet Auburn properties referenced in your campaign proposal. Martin turned to Vanessa. What? That's not. We also received evidence, Darius said, that materials used to question the ethics standing of a Whitmore community scholar originated from accounts tied by language, timing and document metadata to a Meridian Vale internal workstream. Vanessa's pulse became a roar. This is absurd. Darius looked at her fully. Is it? There was no Belle Argent in his face. No humiliated man seeking revenge. Only a chairman asking whether a vendor had lied. That terrified her because it gave her nowhere to hide. She stepped forward. Mr. Whitmore, I don't know what personal narrative has been constructed here, but Meridian Vale prepared a strong strategic proposal under extreme pressure. If there are concerns about third parties, we can address them separately. It would be unfortunate to let emotional optics derail business judgment. Emotional optics, Darius repeated. Vanessa knew instantly she had chosen the wrong words. Darius turned to Malcolm. Bring her in. The boardroom doors opened. Imani Carter entered with an attorney beside her. Vanessa's stomach fell through the floor. Imani wore the same borrowed blazer from the hearing, but today it did not look borrowed. It looked claimed. Her hair was pulled back. Her face was tired and steady. Miss Loretta came behind her in a purple church hat as if daring the room to object. Brielle covered her mouth. Darius did not smile at Imani. He did not perform warmth for the room. He simply nodded once respectful. Carter agreed to attend only to address the false allegations made against her, he said. She is represented by independent counsel. She does not work for Whitmore Global. She is not part of this pitch. She owes nobody in this room a performance. Imani looked at Vanessa. For once, Vanessa had no polished sentence ready. Imani spoke. My name is Imani Carter. I am a graduate student, a waitress, a tutor, and a Whitmore scholar. I gave a man coffee because he looked cold and tired. That's it. I didn't know his last name. I didn't ask for money. I didn't ask for access. I didn't ask to be pulled into whatever this is. Her voice shook once. She kept going. After that night, Ms. Monroe came to my workplace, threatened my scholarship, called my life inspiring in the way people do when they want to remind you you're beneath them, and warned me to stay away from a man I had met once. Then an ethics complaint used a photo of me doing my job as if my kindness was evidence of fraud. Vanessa stood frozen. Imani placed a flash drive on the table. My attorney has already provided the evidence. I'm not here to beg. I'm here because people like Ms. Monroe count on women like me being too embarrassed to say what happened in front of powerful people. I'm not embarrassed. She should be. Miss Loretta whispered, "Come on, baby," under her breath. Darius's eyes remained on the table, but something in his jaw changed. One of the foundation executives looked at Imani with visible shame. "Mrs. Carter," she said quietly, "on behalf of the review office, I am sorry." That was the first satisfaction. Small, earned, not enough, but real. Vanessa broke. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "Are we really turning a billion-dollar account review into a diner girl's grievance session?" There it was. A mask on the floor. Nobody breathed. Martin Keller closed his eyes. Darius looked at Vanessa for a long moment. "Thank you," he said. Vanessa blinked. "For what clarity?" He closed the folder. The sound was soft, final. "Whitmore Global will not proceed with Meridian Vale. Effective immediately, all active exploratory work is terminated. Our legal department will refer the undisclosed conflict and the apparent smear campaign to the appropriate parties. The Foundation will continue its independent review of process failures. Peachtree Renewal's community materials will not receive Whitmore support in any form." Martin stood so fast his chair rolled back. "Mr. Whitmore, please, on behalf of Meridian, your company may submit any formal response through legal. This meeting is over." Vanessa felt the room move without her. Papers gathered, laptops closed. Her boss would not look at her. Brielle sat with tears running silently down her face, not from fear now, but release. Turned to Darius. All pride left her in a rush so violent it almost bent her knees. "Darius," she said. He did not respond to the first name. "Mr. Whitmore, please. I didn't know who you were that night." Imani's eyes sharpened. Darius's expression did not change. "I know. If I had known, that is the problem." The sentence cut clean. She reached for him, not touching, but close enough that Malcolm stepped forward. "I made mistakes. I was under pressure. You don't understand what it takes to get into rooms like this when you don't come from them. For the first time, something like sadness crossed Darius's face. Not sympathy. Recognition of a ruined thing that had once been human. I understand more than you think, but pain does not give you the right to become a gatekeeper for other people's humiliation. Vanessa looked at Imani, then hatred and desperation twisting together. You think he cares about you? This is what men like him do. He gets to be noble because you were useful. Imani stepped forward before Darius could speak. Maybe that startled everyone, even Darius. Imani's voice stayed steady. Maybe he still has things to answer for, he knows that. I know that. But you don't get to hide behind my doubts. You hurt me. You threatened my grandmother's home. You used my face to tell a lie. That belongs to you. Vanessa had no answer, no real one. The room had finally become what she feared most, a place where polish could not save her. She gathered her bag with shaking hands and walked out past executives who parted not out of respect, but discomfort. In the hallway, she heard Miss Loretta behind her. Lord, the older woman said, that woman need a mirror and a long weekend. A few people laughed. Vanessa kept. Her heels did not sound powerful anymore. They sounded alone. The collapse did not happen all at once, even though later people told the story that way. First, Meridian Vale suspended Vanessa pending investigation. Then Martin Keller resigned from the Whitmore Pursuit Committee, which was a fancy way of saying the board had placed the failure at his feet and asked him to stand there politely. Then Brielle and 2 other employees filed formal complaints. Then a business reporter published a story about undisclosed redevelopment ties, ethics smears, and the danger of performative community campaigns built by people privately trying to remove the same communities they publicly praised. No one printed the worst details at first. They did not need to. The industry could smell blood through velvet. Vanessa's calls went unanswered. Her lunch invitations evaporated. Former friends texted things like thinking of you, which meant please don't call. Cooper Vale claimed all consulting work had been preliminary and unauthorized. He used the word miscommunication 3 times in one statement and Vanessa's name twice. That was how she knew he had buried her. On the 3rd night after the boardroom, she sat on the floor of her condo surrounded by shoes, campaign awards, and half-packed boxes. Her company email no longer worked. Her building concierge had looked at her with pity that morning, after a courier delivered legal papers. Pity, the one thing worse than contempt. She opened her phone and searched Darius Whitmore. Photos appeared. Charity galas, economic forums, groundbreakings. A younger Darius standing beside Evelyn Whitmore outside a community clinic. Another photo from years ago showed him in shirt sleeves at a flood relief site, carrying bottled water beside volunteers. Not a performance, or maybe it was. She no longer knew how to tell. Then she searched Imani Carter. Nothing glamorous, a student honor roll, a youth center newsletter, a public comment clip from the hearing. In the video, Imani stood in a cheap blazer and asked, "Value for who?" Vanessa watched it 3 times. By the 3rd, anger had nowhere left to go. Underneath it was something smaller and uglier, envy. Not of Imani's money. She had none, not of her clothes, please. Of the fact that Imani could stand in a room without pretending not to be from where she was from. Vanessa had spent her whole life editing herself into acceptance and still panicked when a door opened. Imani had walked into the same room carrying exhaustion, fear, and the truth, and somehow looked freer. Vanessa threw the phone across the carpet. It did not break. Of course it didn't. Even that would have been too satisfying. Darius did not see Imani for 11 days after the boardroom. He sent one message through her attorney. "Thank you for attending. I am sorry for my part in placing you in harm's way. If you are willing, I would like to apologize in person. No pressure and no expectation." Imani did not answer for 9 days. On the 10th, Malcolm received a text from her lawyer that said Miss Carter will meet Mr. Whitmore at Sweet Auburn Diner before opening. Miss Loretta will be present. No security inside. Malcolm read it twice. "She negotiates better than half our vendors," he said. Darius looked almost proud. At 6 on the 11th morning, he arrived alone. The diner smelled like coffee, bleach, and biscuits again. Chairs were still upside down on tables. Morning light made the windows look kinder than they were. Imani sat in the back booth. Miss Loretta stood behind the counter with a rolling pin. "Is that for pastry or me?" Darius asked. "Depends how this conversation go fair." He sat across from Imani. She looked tired, not fragile. Tired, which he respected more. Your scholarship, he asked. Reinstated. Emergency support approved. External review found process failures. The letter used those words like they were allergic to plain English. Good. Not the allergy, the result. The diner. Hearing is paused. Whitmore is creating a small business preservation fund, but not tied to your testimony. It will cover multiple legacy businesses in vulnerable corridors. Independent board. Public criteria. Miss Loretta can apply without owing me a smile. Miss Loretta pointed the rolling pin at him. I don't owe smiles anyway, I have learned that. Imani watched him. You did that because of us. I noticed because of you. I should have noticed sooner. That answer sat between them. It was not perfect. It was better than charity. Why did you lie? Imani asked. Darius looked at his hands. I didn't use a fake name. Don't get you, Miss Loretta murmured. Told you she got aim. Darius nodded once. I hid the parts of my life that change how people treat me. I told myself I wanted honesty. But I was also testing people without their consent. That's not fair. Imani blinked. She had expected defense, not that. No, she said, it isn't. I'm sorry. I believe you. The word surprised both of them. She looked away first. Believing you doesn't mean I trust you. I know. And it doesn't mean you get to turn this into some story where the billionaire saves the waitress. I saved myself too. Brielle helped. Miss Loretta helped. My lawyer helped. You brought a big flashlight after the fire started. Darius absorbed that. You're right. You keep saying that. It's disorienting, he smiled a little. I can disagree badly if it helps. Don't push it. For the first time, Imani almost smiled. Miss Loretta saw it and pretended not to. Darius pulled something from his coat pocket and placed it on the table. A folded $10 bill. Imani frowned. What is that? The tip I left the first night. You took your own tip back? I almost left 100. Then I thought it would make the coffee feel like a transaction, so I left 10. Okay, I'm returning it. Why? Because I don't want the first kind thing you did for me to be something I paid for. That did something to her expression he could not read. Miss Loretta suddenly became very interested in wiping a clean counter. Imani touched the folded bill, but did not pick it up. You're weird, Darius Whitmore. I've heard. From who? People who are not usually allowed to say it twice. This time she did smile. Small, reluctant, real. It felt more valuable than any room that had stood for him. Coffee? She asked. If you're offering, I'm charging even better. She stood and poured him a mug. No free coffee this time. That was progress. 3 months later, Sweet Auburn Diner hosted a block dinner that spilled onto the sidewalk. Miss Loretta called it a fundraiser because she did not like the word celebration until the check cleared. The Small Business Preservation Fund had approved her application. So had 3 other legacy businesses on the corridor. The redevelopment fight was not over, because fights like that rarely ended clean. But the block had lawyers now, press attention, and enough money to breathe. Breathing mattered. Ruth Carter sat near the door in a folding chair, Kane beside her accepting compliments like a queen pretending to be modest. Brielle came too. She had left Meridian Vale and taken a strategy job at a non-profit incubator where nobody had yet told her not to cry until lunch. She brought peach cobbler and looked nervous until Miss Loretta declared it respectable. Not great, Miss Loretta said. Respectable. Brielle beamed like she had won an award. Imani moved between tables with plates, laughing more than she had in months. Her scholarship was stable. Her grandmother's emergency medical debt had been restructured through a hospital assistance program Elise Hammond helped her find, after apologizing again, this time like a person and not a paragraph. And Darius came late. No cameras, no entourage. Just Malcolm dropping him at the corner with a warning not to eat anything that looked room temperature too long. Darius ignored him and bought 3 plates. Imani found him near the mural wall, holding lemonade in a plastic cup. You look suspiciously normal, she said. I wore sneakers. Brave. Malcolm said they cost too much to count as normal. Malcolm is right. They stood side by side watching Miss Loretta scold a city councilman for taking the last deviled egg. I wanted to tell you something, Darius said. Imani looked at him. Sounds serious. It is. He seemed nervous. That softened her before she could stop it. Okay. Whitmore is launching a paid community research fellowship for graduate students, independent selection. University run. Scholars will audit corporate development campaigns for actual community impact, not just messaging. Imani stared. That's good. You should apply. Her eyes narrowed. Darius, independent selection, I won't touch it, still. You said numbers without context, lie politely. I think you should get paid to make them tell the truth. She looked away. The mural beside them showed hands of different shades holding up a street sign. Old paint flaked near the edges. You can't keep making opportunities every time you feel guilty. I know, do you? He smiled faintly. People keep asking me that. Smart people. Yes. He turned toward her. This isn't guilt. Not only guilt, it's infrastructure. If companies are going to profit from communities, those communities need people in the room who can read the numbers and challenge the story. You can do that if you want to. If not, someone else will. But I thought you should know. Imani studied him. You practiced that 3 times. Still sounded like a press release in the middle. I can revise. She laughed. There it was. Not forgiveness exactly. Something less dramatic and more durable. Trust beginning as a small, skeptical animal. I'll think about it, she said. That's all I'm asking. Miss Loretta shouted from the doorway. Darius, if you standing by that wall trying to look humble, come carry this tea. Darius looked at Imani. Am I being summoned? You are being promoted. To what, unpaid operations? He laughed, warm and startled, and went to carry tea. Imani watched him take the heavy container from Miss Loretta with both hands and listened seriously as she told him where not to spill. A billionaire holding sweet tea on a cracked sidewalk while her grandmother corrected his posture. The sight should have been ridiculous. It was. It was also strangely beautiful. Vanessa saw the article 6 months after the boardroom, sitting in the break room of a boutique hotel, where she now worked as a guest relations consultant on a temporary contract that paid less than her old clothing allowance. She had not fallen into poverty the way people online wanted villains to fall. Life was rarely that theatrical. She had savings. She had a condo on the market. She had contacts, though fewer every month. She had enough privilege left to land somewhere with a desk and a name tag. But she had fallen out of the world that worshipped her. That was punishment enough for the woman she had been. The article headline read, Whitmore Global launches Community Impact Fellowship, led by Georgia State Partnership. A photo showed Darius Whitmore at a podium, but Vanessa barely looked at him. Beside him stood Imani Carter, not as a waitress, not as a scandal, as the inaugural graduate fellow selected to help build the impact audit model. Her hair was braided back. She wore a blue suit. She looked nervous and proud and fully present. Vanessa waited for the old acid to rise. It did, less than before, a little, enough to taste. Then something else came with it, shame. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind that begged for an audience. Quiet shame. The kind that sat down across from you when you were alone and told the truth without raising its voice. A housekeeper named Marisol entered the break room carrying a plastic container. You want some arroz con pollo? She asked. Vanessa almost said no automatically, old reflex, distance. Then she looked at Marisol's tired face. The food offered without calculation. The simple human bridge extended across a room with fluorescent lights. Yes, Vanessa said. The word felt strange. Thank you. Marisol smiled. Good, you too skinny. Vanessa almost laughed. Almost cried. She accepted the food. It did not redeem her. One lunch could not do that. But as she ate from a plastic fork at a laminate table, she understood with painful clarity that every room she had clawed toward had become a cage because she carried contempt into it like perfume. People had offered her small kindnesses before. She had mistaken them for weakness. That had been her real poverty. On a clear Sunday evening, Darius and Imani walked through the West End after visiting Ruth. Sky had gone peach and lavender. Kids rode bikes in loops near the corner. Somebody grilled in a backyard. Music floated from an open window. Old gospel giving way to outcast because Atlanta knew how to hold contradictions. Imani had accepted the fellowship. She had also made Darius wait 2 months before taking her to dinner anywhere that required reservations. I had to make sure you could survive normal food, she told him. I eat normal food. You called the lemon pepper wings rustic. That was a mistake, a grave one. They stopped near the mural where neighborhood kids had painted the words "We've been here" in bright colors. Darius looked at her. Can I ask you something? That depends. On? Whether you're about to sound like a foundation brochure again. Personal question. She leaned against the brick. Okay. He took a breath. When did you stop being angry at me? Imani thought about lying. A softer answer would have been easier, but their best moments had not come from easy. I didn't stop all at once. He nodded. I figured. Part of me was mad when you apologized. Part of me was mad when you helped without trying to own the help. Part of me was mad when you carried tea and Miss Loretta liked you too much. Very inconvenient. She's a powerful advocate. She's nosy both. Imani smiled. Then it faded into something honest. I think I stopped being angry when I realized you were willing to be uncomfortable without rushing me out of my feelings. Most people with power want forgiveness on their schedule. You didn't. Darius looked down. I wanted to. I know. I still do sometimes. I know that too. They stood in the lavender light. And you? She asked. When did you stop testing everybody? He looked at the mural. I haven't. Not completely. Honest. Depressing, but honest. I think I started trying to stop the night you gave me coffee and didn't care who I was. Then I ruined it by not telling you who I was. You did. But you also showed me the difference between being unknown and being seen. I was chasing the first. I needed the second. That one sat with her. She looked at him for a long moment. That was almost too good. Did Malcolm write it? No. Your grandmother? She would have made it shorter and meaner. Imani laughed. Darius reached for her hand slowly enough that she could refuse. She did not. His hand closed around hers. No cameras, no chandelier, no wealth reveal. Just a man and a woman standing beside a wall that said, "We've been here while evening settled over a neighborhood still fighting to remain itself." Imani, he said. The way he said her name made her chest tighten. Yeah, I love you. She looked away fast. You can't just say that on a sidewalk. Where should I say it? I don't know. Somewhere with seating. He laughed softly. She kept hold of his hand. Then she looked back at him. Her eyes shone, but her voice stayed steady. I love you too. The words changed nothing visible. Traffic moved, kids shouted. Smoke from somebody's grill drifted down the block, but Darius felt something inside him, some old locked room, open without force. He had been loved for a name, desired for access, praised for power. Now a woman who had seen him lie, fail, apologize, and try again loved him anyway. Not because he looked poor, not because he looked rich, because, slowly and stubbornly, he had learned how to stand before her as just himself. That was the wealth he had not known how to count. A year after the night at Belle Argent, a small wedding took place in a church near Auburn Avenue. It was not secret. Nothing involving Darius Whitmore could be fully secret. But it was small family, close friends, Miss Loretta in a hat that deserved its own security detail, Ruth Carter crying before the music even started, Malcolm standing beside Darius with the expression of a man prepared to handle a hostile takeover or a missing boutonniere with equal seriousness. The press waited outside the block perimeter and got almost nothing. One photo eventually appeared online. Not the kiss, not the vows, just Darius and Imani leaving the church hand in hand, laughing because Miss Loretta had thrown rice too hard and hit Malcolm in the ear. Imani wore a simple dress. Her ring was not a stone large enough to make strangers angry. Darius wore a dark suit, no crown, no spectacle. The headline called it understated. The comments called it beautiful, suspicious, inspiring, fake, classy, boring, perfect, and everything else strangers call lives they do not have to live. Vanessa saw the photo on her phone during a lunch break. She worked now for a non-profit hospitality training program, helping women re-enter the workforce after layoffs, illness, prison, divorce, and all the other ways life could shove a person out of a room. She was not in charge. That helped. She had learned to listen because nobody there cared who she used to be. When the photo appeared, she sat very still. A younger version of herself would have hated Imani for the simplicity of the dress, for the warmth in Darius's face, for the way the whole scene seemed to reject everything Vanessa had once worshipped. The woman she was becoming did not hate her. She hurt. That was different. A trainee named Keisha leaned over. You okay, Ms. Monroe? Vanessa locked the phone. For a second, pride reached for a mask. Then she let it drop. Yes, she said, just remembering a mistake. Keisha's nodded like that made sense. We all got those. Vanessa looked at the dark screen and saw her own face reflected back. Older than it had been a year ago, less polished, more human in a way she had once feared. Yes, she said quietly, we do. Outside, the afternoon moved on without asking her permission. Across town, Darius and Imani walked down the church steps into a life that would not be simple just because love was real. There would be arguments, headlines, board meetings, community fights, grief when Ruth's health dipped, long nights when Darius forgot not every problem wanted a check, and Imani reminded him with the kind of look that could stop traffic. But there would also be coffee. Real coffee, diner coffee with opinions. There would be Miss Loretta sending plates home because billionaires looked too skinny to her. There would be Malcolm pretending not to enjoy block parties. There would be Brielle's first major campaign built without lying. There would be a fellowship class of students who knew exactly how numbers could be made, to serve truth instead of bury it. And there would be two people who found each other, because one rainy night, a man stripped off the costume of wealth, and a woman refused to treat poverty like a stain. The world had tried to measure them by clothes, addresses, titles, and usefulness. It had been wrong. The most valuable thing in that whole story was never the tower, the contract, the watch, or the name on the building. It was a chipped white mug placed in front of a stranger. It was a biscuit wrapped in foil. It was a tired woman saying, "You can sit here," even before she knew who he was. And sometimes that is where a life begins again. Before you go, let me say this plainly, because stories like this can feel larger than life and still be built from things that happen every day. This story is fiction. Darius Whitmore, Imani Carter, Vanessa Monroe, Miss Loretta, and the companies in these pages are made up. There was no single billionaire in Atlanta who walked into a diner in a grey hoodie and exposed a marketing executive in a boardroom exactly like this. But the emotions underneath it are real enough that many people recognize them before the first scene is over. People get judged by clothing every day, by accents, by skin tone, by job titles, by whether they arrive through the front entrance or carry a tray through the side door. That kind of judgment can be quiet, polished, even polite. It can hide inside words like standards, professionalism, fit, culture, and concern. Sometimes the people using those words genuinely believe they are being reasonable. Sometimes they are protecting a room they fought hard to enter. But pain does not become wisdom just because we dress it well. Imani's situation is also rooted in something real. A student can be brilliant and still one medical bill away from dropping out. A neighborhood can be called underdeveloped by people who never learned how much care already lives there. Small business can feed half a block and still be invisible on a spreadsheet. Data matters, strategy matters, investment matters. But without context, those things can become tools for erasing people while claiming to help them. Darius is not written as a perfect rescuer because that would be too easy. He had power, but he also had habits shaped by power. He wanted honesty, yet he tested people without telling them there was a test. He wanted to help, but had to learn that help can become control when the person receiving it has no choice. That lesson matters. Good intentions do not cancel impact. Apology without change behavior is just decoration. Vanessa is not innocent. She harmed people, she lied. She used race, class, reputation, and fear as weapons. But she is also not a cartoon monster. She is what can happen when shame goes untreated and ambition becomes armor. Many people who were once humiliated decide, consciously or not, that the safest life is one where they humiliate first. That choice may be understandable for a moment. It is still wrong. If there is one thing worth carrying from this story, it is this. The way someone treats a person with nothing to offer them is not a small detail. It is the clearest window you may ever get. A waitress, a cleaner, a driver, a student, a tenant, an assistant, a tired stranger in wet clothes. None of those roles makes a person small. They only reveal whether the room is big enough to recognize humanity without a price tag. And maybe the next time we are tempted to measure someone's worth too quickly, we can pause. Not because they might secretly be rich, because they are already human.